hear the name Bill Gates, what immediately comes to mind for you? I mean, is it the Microsoft guy, the super rich visionary?
Or maybe the philanthropist,
Yeah,
right? Tackling these massive global challenges.
exactly. The truth is he's kind of all of those things and, well, probably more.
He really is.
So today, we're doing a deep dive into the, let's say, extraordinary and often pretty complex life of William Henry Gates III.
Yeah, we're pulling out the key bits from a pretty comprehensive overview, kind of tracing that journey.
From like coding prodigy to this huge global influencer whose actions, I mean, they're still shaping our world today.
Definitely.
So get ready for maybe some surprising facts, some aha moments, hopefully give you a shortcut to understanding how one person's, well, drive, intellect, and, yeah, immense wealth have left such a mark.
A huge mark on tech, global health, even climate change. It's quite the story.
It really is. So let's start right at the beginning. His formative years, Bill Gates, William Henry Gates III, born in Seattle, October 28, 1955. His family was, well, prominent. Father, well-known lawyer, mother on boards like United Way.
Right, so they had certain expectations, law career initially.
That was the plan, apparently. But the household itself sounds intense, super competitive. Reports of a reward for winning and penalty for losing.
Wow, in everything, like games and stuff.
Yeah, hearts, pickleball, you name it. And interestingly, he was small for his age, apparently faced some bullying as a kid.
You can see how that combination, the competition, maybe the bullying, could foster a real drive to, prove himself.
Totally. But the big turning point seems to be age 13, enrolling at Lakeside Prep School. That's where he first met a computer.
And what an encounter, right? The Mother's Club using rummage sale money. That's amazing.
It is. They bought a Teletype Model 33 terminal and some computer time on a GE machine, and Gates was just, boom, hooked.
Instantly.
Started programming in BASIC, made a tic-tac-toe game. He was apparently fascinated by how the machine just perfectly executed the code.
That makes sense, finding something that just works logically. But what's really interesting is how quickly he and Paul Allen, the whole Lakeside Programmers Club, understood the value of that computer time.
Right. When the initial block ran out, they didn't just stop.
No way. They actively hunted for more time. They even exploited bugs in some company's system to get it. Got banned for a bit.
But then they turned it around.
Yeah. Cleverly offered to find bugs for the company in exchange for computer time. That shows like a really early grasp of software value and, well, negotiation.
It's pretty compelling, isn't it? From dealing with bullies to basically hacking for computer time. Seems like tech was his destiny, whatever his parents thought.
Almost inevitable. And he wasn't just driven. He was, genuinely brilliant. Remember the pancake sorting thing at Harvard?
Oh, yeah, that complex math problem. He came up with a solution that held the record for, what, over 30 years?
Exactly. It shows that deep intellectual spark, not just the business side.
Which also kicked in super early. Trafo data at 17, making traffic counters.
With Paul Allen, yeah. Using one of the first microprocessors, that wasn't just playing around, that was a real venture.
And then the big leap. Dropping out of Harvard in 75 to start Microsoft.
With his parents' blessing, crucially, they figured he could always go back if it didn't pan out.
Lucky for him, and maybe us, he never needed to. Which brings us nicely to Microsoft's rise. So, 1975, he sees the Altair 8800 in a magazine.
Popular electronics, yeah. Sees the potential immediately.
And makes that incredibly bold, cold call to Emites, the makers. Claims they have a basic interpreter ready.
When they hadn't actually written a line of code for the Altair yet. Incredible nerve.
Right. They scrambled, built an emulator, wrote the interpreter, demoed it successfully, and bam, got the deal.
That really speaks volumes about their early hustle, Allen came up with the name Microsoft.
Later dropped the hyphen.
Right. And something else crucial pops up right away. Gates' strong stance on intellectual property. That open letter to hobbyists in 76.
Yeah, complaining about piracy of their Altair BASIC.
He argued it basically killed the incentive for professional developers. This belief in, paid software was fundamental to him.
And he was deep in the trenches back then. Personally reviewing, often rewriting, every line of code for the first 5 years.
It's kind of staggering, isn't it? That level of control and detail for a CEO.
Absolutely. But the really pivotal moment comes in 1980. IBM.
Ah, yes, the IBM PC. They needed an operating system, and apparently Gates' mother might have helped make the connection.
The story goes she mentioned Microsoft to IBM CEO.
Anyway, IBM comes knocking.
But it almost didn't happen. Gates first sent them to another company, Digital Research.
Right. But those talks fell through, and IBM came back to Microsoft.
And this is where Gates and Allen make that killer move. They buy an existing OS called 86DOS from another Seattle company.
Adapt it, call it PC-DOS, and license it to IBM. For a flat fee, was it?
Yeah, just $50,000, which sounds tiny now.
But here's the genius part, right? He didn't give IBM the copyright.
Exactly. He gambled correctly that other companies would clone the IBM hardware, which they did, in droves.
And because Microsoft owned the rights to the OS, they could license MS-DOS to all those clone makers. Suddenly, they weren't just a small software shop.
They were setting the industry standard. It was, strategically brilliant. Pure market leverage.
Absolutely. Connecting this to the bigger picture, that single decision, retaining the DOS copyright, it just had this massive ripple effect. It shaped personal computing for decades.
It really defined Microsoft's trajectory.
And maybe the whole software industry, arguably, which raises that question, right? How much of their success was pure innovation versus just really aggressive, smart business tactics?
The sources suggest it's a mix. The vision for Windows was innovative, but the way they achieved dominance involved some bare-knuckle business.
And that intensity showed up in his management style, too, didn't it?
Oh, yeah. Known for being verbally combative, challenging employees pretty fiercely. That infamous line, "That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard."
Yikes. And Paul Allen's story about Gates trying to reduce his share while he had cancer, though Gates disputes that version.
Yeah, it paints a picture of someone incredibly driven, maybe sometimes ruthless.
Definitely relentless. So Microsoft launches Windows 1.0 in '85, competes with Apple's GUI. It took a while, but Windows eventually took over.
And Gates himself started stepping back later on. CEO in 2000, fully out of daily operations by 2008, chairman until 2014, left the board in 2020.
Which leads us into that whole second act, the massive shift to philanthropy.
The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Yeah.
Started earlier, but really formalized in 2000. Became the world's largest private foundation.
And the scale is just mind-boggling. Gates himself has put in, $60 billion out of maybe $100 billion total charitable donation?
Seems like it. And then there's the Giving Pledge with Warren Buffett.
Right, getting billionaires to commit at least half their wealth. And Gates himself pledged pretty much everything, right?
Yeah, virtually all. Planning just $10 million for each kid, which works out to like 99.96% going to charity.
That level of commitment is, almost unprecedented.
So you see this huge pivot from tech battles to tackling these enormous global issues, putting serious money behind it, even when it stirs up controversy.
It's a defining shift. And it's not just health. He's equally focused on climate change and energy now.
Right. He sees them as critical, interlinked problems. Needs massive R&D for clean energy.
And he put his own money down, launched Breakthrough Energy in 2015 with $1 billion, getting other investors for high-risk clean tech startups.
Supported government stuff, too, like Mission Innovation. And he co-founded TerraPower.
Developing those advanced sodium nuclear reactors, also backed carbon engineering direct air capture, even looking into sun-dimming geoengineering. Pretty out there stuff.
He's definitely not afraid of big, maybe controversial ideas. Urging rich countries to go 100% synthetic beef. Lobbying for the Inflation Reduction Act.
Calling it potentially the most important piece of U.S. climate legislation ever.
So, looking at the pattern, it's always about huge investment, innovation, trying to change systems.
Exactly. Which again raises that question about influence. Is it okay for one person, however well-intentioned, to have so much sway over global policy through their private wealth?
It's a tough ethical question, especially when you see the scale of his other investments through Cascade, his private firm, largest private owner of U.S. farmland.
Yeah, plus railways, food tech, like Impossible Foods. It's incredibly diverse.
Yeah, so let's shift a bit, try to get a glimpse of the man himself. Avid reader, apparently. Great Gatsby, quote, engraved in his library ceiling.
Yeah, advises young people to read a lot, and his schedule is planned minute by minute like a president.
But he flew coach until 97. That's kind of surprising.
A bit of pragmatism, maybe. He's also colorblind.
Oh, interesting. And then there's the really personal revelation from his upcoming memoir.
Source code, yeah. Where he says he believes he's autistic, cites things like rocking, the self-stimming.
And those incredibly deep dives into topics, even as a kid. Like that huge report he wrote in elementary school.
It certainly offers a different lens on his intensity and focus, doesn't it?
It really does. Adds another layer of complexity. And his personal life has obviously seen huge changes too. Meeting Melinda, marrying, 3 kids.
And then the divorce in 2021 after 27 years, that brought a lot of scrutiny.
Yeah, reports about Melinda meeting lawyers back in 2019, concerns mentioned about his ties to Jeffrey Epstein.
Reportedly, they waited until the youngest finished high school. The financial settlement wasn't public.
And that Epstein connection became a major controversy.
Hugely damaging. His relationship with Epstein started after Epstein's conviction for sex offenses involving a minor. It continued for years.
Gates initially tried to frame it as just seeking philanthropic funding, called Epstein's lifestyle intriguing.
But later admitted the meetings were a huge mistake. Melinda was reportedly uncomfortable meeting Epstein, too. And then there were other reports about Epstein maybe knowing about an alleged affair Gates had, meetings about the Nobel Prize.
It's just really murky and troubling stuff. It definitely complicated his image.
Absolutely. That image has swung wildly over the years, hasn't it? From ruthless robber baron in the Microsoft antitrust days.
To saintly savior, the huggable billionaire philanthropist.
And then post-divorce, with the Epstein details and pandemic influence, you saw this rise of the tech supervillain narrative fueled by conspiracy theories.
Right, the microchips, depopulation stuff, which he says he just doesn't understand.
It really highlights that intense public focus. How do you reconcile the good work of the foundation with these ethical questions about past business practices or deeply problematic associations like Epstein?
It's the central tension, isn't it? Private actions versus public trust, especially at that level of wealth and influence.
Definitely. And his specific political stances add another dimension, opposing software regulation back in '98.
Arguing against a permanent Trump ban on Facebook. Opposing the COVID vaccine patent waiver.
Yeah, arguing production capacity was the real bottleneck, not IP. He's also famously critical of crypto.
Called it providing no valuable output. And recently, a big donation, $50 million, to a PAC supporting Kamala Harris, saying this election is different.
So he's not shy about weighing in, even when it's controversial.
Clearly not. But despite all the controversies, the accolades keep coming too. Presidential Medal of Freedom, honorary knighthood in the UK.
And just recently, a major honor in Nigeria. It's such a mixed, complex picture.
It really is. So wrapping up this deep dive, we've traced Bill Gates from that intense kid programmer through founding and leading Microsoft, dominating the PC revolution.
To this massive pivot, tackling huge global challenges like disease and climate change through his foundation and investments.
We've touched on the complexities of his personality, his management style, his personal life, the divorce, and these really persistent controversies.
His story is just such a powerful example of the sheer impact one individual can have, for good and, well, sometimes raising serious questions. Driven by that intellect, ambition, and, yes, those unbelievable resources.
It really underscores how innovation, massive wealth, and ethical choices all get tangled together, shaping not just one legacy, but potentially the direction of human progress.
Which kind of leaves us with a big question, doesn't it? What responsibility do people with that kind of unprecedented wealth have? And maybe more pointedly, how much influence is actually too much for any single person, no matter how good their intentions might seem?
That's definitely something to chew on, a challenging thought to end with.